All right, guys, we're back with Fitness Myth number 3. Today we are going to talk about overtraining. Probably looking at me like I'm crazy, like overtraining is a myth? Yes and no. Overtraining itself is not a myth. It exists. It absolutely exists, don't get me wrong. But what today's industry has brought us to believe what overtraining is absolutely false. Okay, one of the things you hear is overtraining. When you get into overtraining, you're going to become catabolic. That's not true. I mean, there's absolutely no data to support this whatsoever. I've never seen it. If you've seen it, I'm more than happy to look at it, and I can change my mind. I'm not attached to any idea. I'm not attached to being right or wrong. I'm looking for the most optimal ways to get things done. You know, that's a little side rant. Don't worry about being right or wrong. Just worry about the best possible way to get things done. And if that goes against something you believe, well, then change your opinion. Who cares about being right? Okay, side rant, over. Anyway, back to overtraining. You know, the biggest myth that I can think of out there that I actually believed, I'm ashamed to even admit it, I did it for years, was this whole do one body part per week to avoid overtraining. If you do it too much, your body's is going to get overwhelmed, it's going to be overtrained, and you're going to lose all your gains. Oh, guys, do not buy into this. Don't do it. It's stupid. And, you know, just a little anecdotal evidence for you from me. I did this for 2, maybe even 3 years. I'd have to look back. Gosh, I hope it was only 2. But anyway, in the final year that I did this once per week thing, I gained 1 inch in my legs. I always track everything, and I measure my progress, and I'm always looking. So in that year, I gained an inch in my legs, and my legs are small. I struggle to build size in my legs. I mean, I've always struggled with that, and I'd hit them hard. I mean, I would work my legs so hard, and they'd be sore for days afterwards. But it just never really grew. Now, when I switched to doing everything twice per week, kind of once heavy, once lighter, utilizing an undulating periodization, my legs grew 2 inches in the first 3 months. I was sold. Anyway, but that's just anecdotal evidence. I mean, you need the data, right? Well, there's data out there too. I mean, I'm going off the top of my head here, but I remember seeing one that actually compared even 3 and 6 times per week doing, I believe it was squats and deadlifts and bench. I'd have to look. I'm going to attach this research. You can look it up if you want. But I mean, 3 or 6 times. Wow, that's a lot, right? And what they actually did was they held volume the same. The amount of work that they did was exactly the same. It was just spread out throughout the week, either 3 times or 6 times. And it actually showed that the people who did it 6 times per week using the same thing actually made more significant gains than the people doing 3. Now, the reason why, this is just my theory, but I think it's probably right, and there's research to back up that the protein synthesis that you get, the increase in protein synthesis from training, lasts somewhere between 16 to 48 hours, depending on what you look at, but I usually like to say about a day or 2. So we'll just say 2 days. So, say you get an increase for 2 days, okay? Well, if you're only exercising your legs once per week, and then you get an increase in protein synthesis for 2 days, then you got 5 days beyond that where you have no increase. So it just doesn't make sense. It makes no sense. I mean, if you do it every 3 days or every 4 days, well, then you're getting the extra bumps in protein synthesis, and that's really how muscle is built. I mean, there's a lot of different factors, don't get me wrong, but I mean, bottom line is you build muscle when protein synthesis is higher than protein breakdown. So if you're getting those bumps and you're utilizing it, you're going to build more muscle. It just makes sense. If you're getting that bump multiple times a week instead of just once, you're going to build more muscle. Plus, you look at any big program out there that, like a squat program such as Smoloff or whatever, you're going to be doing it 4 times a week plus maybe. You're going to hit it like crazy, and it works. I mean, if you're looking to build muscle, if you're under a gun to add an inch to your legs and 50 pounds to your squat, are you gonna do it once per week? No, you're gonna do it multiple times a week. Watch out for overtraining. It's gonna take all your gains. Well, anyway, What I think most people nowadays think of for overtraining is actually overreaching. What overreaching is basically short-term overtraining. It's when your body starts to get really fatigued, your drive to lift starts to go down, you don't have the motivation anymore, and it's just kind of some signs that you're probably starting to overreach. But when you overreach and then you back off and you do your deload, that's when you actualize your gains. That's when the muscles really starts building, okay? So work hard, get into overreaching, back off, and then keep going through that cycle. And that's why I usually tell people don't worry about setting a deload for every certain amount of weeks, like every 4 weeks like some people do. I'm not saying it's bad, but personally I think it's a better idea to just listen to your body and go with that. Once your passion, if you're like me and you have a strong passion for lifting, if your drive to lift starts to fade and you're really fatigued, that's the number one sign that you are now starting to overreach and you need to back off. Once it's been sustained for a while. I mean, I'm not talking a day or two. For a week. And it's really the perfect way to do it. So, I don't want to drag this out too long, but stop worrying about overtraining. It's and if you're an Olympic lifter or something, or you're a professional athlete, then yeah, overtraining is probably going to be a concern for you. But long-term overtraining for the typical amateur recreational lifter is extremely rare. I mean, if you have the sniffles for 6 months on end and, you start becoming impotent, well, yeah, you're probably overtrained. But, the short-term stuff, it's not something you need to worry about. Work hard. Eat right, get your rest, build muscle, all right? No more worrying about overtraining. All right, any questions? As always, feel free to contact me in any of the methods you see below. Otherwise, until next time.